It is my distinct honor to introduce the 2015 James Hardy Legends Award to the truly legendary Denise Simmons.
I just have to say thank you to Corey and to Quincy. You know, I always say there's the family that you're born to, and there's the family that you're born to have. And when I think of these gentlemen, they are part of the family that I was born to have. They give me inspiration. You know, sometimes the work isn't easy. Sometimes the work is downright hard. But every now and then you look and find a piece of insight, some motivation, some inspiration, some exhilaration. And I get that when I see these young men. Now, anybody could have started an organization, but they didn't. They did. And anybody can give of all their time. Did I say all their time? Anybody can give all their time, but they don't. But they did. Anyone can say, you know, this should be done. We should have an organization that speaks to, exemplifies, lifts up, showboats our community. But they didn't, but they did. And so I just have to say thank you. You know, I've been in public service for a long time and working in the trenches every day. You know, the job of a public servant is not always an easy job. People take that public servant part very seriously. They actually think that you are supposed to serve like serve. But I do it because it's a labor of love. Because like Corey and Quincy and the members of HGBC, it's because you know someone has to do it and you want to do it because you have to pay it forward. You have to leave a path for others to follow. And so I do this work because I really enjoy doing this work and trying to help people find housing or to get them a job or to get their life back on track when they've had a few missteps. I enjoy paying it forward because I pay it forward in your name, in our name. You know, one of the funny things about public service, I said people often take it literally, and I remember, those of you that know me, and I saw some Cambridge folks in the audience, they know that I always had a pass on the kids. You know how in the community of color, you take care of your children, and you take care of the next generation of children, and if you have any strength left, you take care of the next generation of children. And so I was out there with my children, taking them to school, and I remember this woman drove up to me, looking very serious, and she said, "Miss Simmons, there's a hole up the street that I've been calling the city for. Can you take care of that?" I said, "Sure, baby. I'll get right out and fix it with my shovel." And she said, "Don't do it right now." But I'm here with my shovel to do that work. You know, I often speak to groups all the time, young groups, girls groups, LGBT groups, and I always want to share my story, and I'm going to tell you why. Family. We have to be in charge of our narrative. Yes. We have to be in charge of our narrative. You see, too often, so often, more often than not, people tell our story for us. Now, I'm talking to my contemporaries in particular when I say we have to be in control of our narrative, because too often, even in this day, our true selves, our same gender-loving selves does not get told because it's too embarrassing for people. We have to be in charge of our own stories. And so when I go out and I talk to groups, I try to say to them, tell your own story. And so let me just share a little bit of mine so you know how I got here. I didn't grow up thinking, oh, I'm gonna be a city councilor. And my kids for sure did not say, I want an overworked, underpaid parent I never get to see. But I chose this because of this. I am northern born, but southern raised. And I would live with my grandmother for a number of months every year. And I remember in the South of the 50s and 60s, where you would see signs that said, nigger, read and run, and if you can't read, run anyhow. And I remember going into a filling station, that's a word for gas station. I remember going into a filling station to go to use the restroom, and the guy says, oh, you don't need this key, you go round back. So I went round back, and it said colored. Now I'm here to tell you, you would not take your favorite chihuahua to the back. It was so nasty. And I remember running to the front and I said to my grandmother, he wants us to use that nasty bathroom. And she says, girl, you will get us killed. And at that point, my motto became resistance.
Yes.
I was not going to have, nor did I ever want to see my grandmother shamed in that way. So I came through by way of my mom, and speaking of mothers, I had to pause just for a moment to say thank you to Diana Moore Chisholm, forgiveness Darnell, because he is an outstanding man. And the next time you decide to speak, make sure I speak after you. But my mother came here to Massachusetts from the South because she couldn't work and she couldn't vote. She couldn't work even though she had a degree from Tuskegee University. And she couldn't vote because you didn't show up to vote in Tuskegee. So she came here to give me more opportunities and more options. And she came here and could not get a job in her field. She was a certified nutritionist, could not get a job. And she says, I want you to be here because I want you to do better than I did. And that's when I got more resistance. So that no one else that looked like me or looked like she would have to do a job cleaning someone else's home when she had a degree that she had got, cum laude. I would go on to go to the city council, to the school committee, and I went to the school committee because I remember this person saying, but we don't need a full-time affirmative action officer because, we all have our rights now. And so I walked in there and I said, well, if we have all our rights, then why don't we have more African-American males in AP classes? And if we have all our rights, why don't we have more black and brown and Latino teachers? And if we have all our rights, why don't we have women in higher paying jobs? And that day I said, let my motto be resistance. And so I ran for the school committee and I won a seat. And everyone wasn't very pleased with the idea of me having a seat. So, as community, we have these occasions where we celebrate. We celebrate our coming out. And some people celebrate at Thanksgiving. Some people celebrate at Christmas time. I celebrated by car. Howie Carr. Because he outed me as that lesbian on the school committee. And I said, well, that's all right because my motto is resistance. And I'm going to stand up against that. I'm going to wear who I am very proudly, and I did. And guess what? Nothing happened. I was able to keep my job because I did the work and because I stood up and I was out and I was proud. I would go on to the city council, very proud to have been the mayor. And one of my final acts of resistance was when I decided to marry my wife. We decided to get married in a historically black church. And we invited everybody from the church. A few more people than we had intended. But it was an experience to let them know that when you have a same-gender wedding, that people are not running through the dance like Prince with stilettos on singing Purple Rain. It was your average, ordinary wedding. But I do have to say this, and this is kind of funny, because one of the church sisters was sitting in the back of the church as my wife and I walked down the aisle, and she said, who's the man? But that's okay, because I told her that neither one of us were. We're both women, but that's another story, I said, honey, and I'll tell you more about it. I just want each of you to know that I am so proud to be here, that I stand and can do the work because you are. I stand on your shoulders. And I walk with Corey and Quincy and each of you, not behind you, not in front of you, but beside you. I know earlier this evening we had Ayanna Presley. I don't know if she's still here, City Councilor Ayanna Presley. She is certainly one of my sheroes. So as I take my seat with supreme gratitude, let me share with you these words from Henry Hilliard Garnett. And it says, "Let your motto be resistance, resistance, resistance. No oppressed people can ever have secure their liberty without resistance. Let us all go on to be eternal warriors."